Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayath, Dawadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. Okay. This afternoon's lesson is entitled, Be Not Without Fear and Wisdom. Okay? Be not without fear and wisdom. You should always, especially in these times, you should always carry about yourself fear and wisdom, because fear is what keeps you alive and wisdom helps you act accordingly. Okay, especially in these times where, Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai is speeding up prophecy, and Lord willing, that the Passover we had just recently, hopefully this will be the last one, and things are starting to intensify. Okay, we're in the midst of Jacob's trouble, but it's only going to get worse. So we're going to start off with the book of Sirach. It's going to be chapter 1. Excuse me. It's going to be chapter 1, verse 2. It says, Who can number the sand of the sea and the drops of rain and the days of eternity? Verse 3. Who can find out the height of heaven and the breadth of the earth and the deep and wisdom? Verse 4. Wisdom hath been created before all things, and the understanding of prudence from everlasting. Okay? So who has that level of wisdom, that infinite level of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding? Who has that? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. He hath created wisdom before all things, and the understanding of the prudence, and prudence is another word for wise, or wisdom, from everlasting. So those that have the understanding, they become, everlasting. Now, this is going to be Proverbs. It's going to be chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 13. Proverbs 3 and 13, it says, Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. Okay? A man that getteth wisdom is happy because he has the understanding and to know things and how to move accordingly, to have that intelligence, to have that understanding, it's a good thing. Verse 14, For the merchandise of it is better than merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. So wisdom is more precious than silver and gold. Verse 15, She is more precious than rubies, and all the things thou canst desire, are not to be compared to her. So you cannot compare, high quality gemstones or jewels to wisdom. You can't. Who cares to have all that stuff? Wisdom is the one thing that you should care about. The one thing that you should, covet for. Because wisdom leads to life. In verse 16, length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. So if you have wisdom, if you follow wisdom, which is this truth, the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, it'll lengthen your days. And you could be granted riches and honor, man. Verse 17, her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. So, wisdom will guide you down in those righteous paths. And her ways are satisfying. Why is that? Because they keep you alive. 18, she is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. 19, Yahweh by wisdom hath founded the earth. By understanding hath he established the heavens. So by his wisdom hath he made all of this that we know and see. And all that's more to come that we don't know and that we don't see. That's the power and the wisdom and understanding and the knowledge of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai that we cannot even fathom. Verse 20, by his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. So by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's wisdom hath he made this happen. Why everything works the way that it works. That's why I entitled this lesson, Be Not Without Fear and Wisdom, man. Because if you are fearless and you approach things impulsively or without using wisdom, without thinking, man, you could run into a lot of problems. Ultimately, it's going to lead to your demise. So going back to Sirach, it's going to be chapter 1, verse 5. It says, the word of the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, is the fountain of wisdom. And her ways are everlasting commandments. To whom hath the root of wisdom been revealed? Who hath known her wise counsels? Alright. Verse 6, to whom hath the root, verse 7, unto whom hath the knowledge of the wisdom been made manifest, and who hath understand her great experience? In verse 8, there is one wise and greatly to be feared, the Lord sitting upon his throne. Okay? So, who really hath the knowledge of wisdom, unto whom hath the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest? And who hath understood her great experience, man? The only one who has that experience is Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushai, man. And and this is going to be Sirach chapter 43. Sirach 43 and 33. And it says, actually, you know what? Let's see. I'm going to start at verse 32. It says, Sirach 43 and 32. It says, there are yet hid greater things than these be, for we have seen but a few of his works. So all that we see now, this is just but a few of his works. We haven't seen everything. We've only seen a small fraction of the Lord's creation, man. There's no telling what sort of other things are out there. Verse 33, for the Lord hath made all things, and to the godly hath he given wisdom. And to the godly, the ones that fear him and that keep the commandments to the best of their ability. Lord willing, that be us, the hopeful elect, that we're a part of his first fruits. Those from the very beginning that were already chosen, that were already preordained. Now going to chapter 45 in the book of Sirach, verse 26. And it says, the power give you wisdom in your heart to judge his people in righteousness, that their good things be not abolished, and that their glory may endure forever. So he gave us, the prophets, that wisdom to judge the nation of Israel in righteousness, the ways of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay? So that their good things, be not abolished, be not, wiped out, not to be, just not to be, getting, to be exterminated, as you would say. We judge these people in righteousness just, it's a form of correction, so that you don't have to face actual judgment from the Lord, him, incurring, to put forth his wrath and indignation upon you. That's why he has prophets to warn you. As the scriptures say, give them warning from me. Now we're going to go to Amos 3:7. It says, surely the Lord Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets. And what is his secret? This wisdom. The wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. Okay? Wisdom is part of that secret. And now that we have the secret, we are to treat it with care and hold on to it, because this understanding is the most valuable thing. Going back to Sirach, Sirach chapter 1, verse 9. He created her, and saw her, and numbered her, and poured her out upon all his works. Excuse me. She is with all flesh according to his gift, and he hath given her to them that love him. Verse 11. The fear of the Lord is honor, and glory, and gladness, and a crown of rejoicing. In verse 12. The fear of the Lord maketh a merry heart, and giveth joy and gladness in a long life. So it's the fear. It is the fear that brings forth wisdom. In fact, this is going to be the book of Baruch, chapter 3. Baruch chapter 3, verse 14. It says, learn where is wisdom, where is strength, where is understanding, that thou mayest know also where is length of days and life, where is the light of the eyes and peace. So that light of the eyes and peace is the truth, man. And Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is the truth. But our people, they don't have fear. They lack that fear. They lack that understanding of why fear is needed. And that's why they're in the position that they're in right now, especially the 2/3. They have no fear. They have no faith. They don't believe. They lack wisdom. They lack understanding. They lack knowledge. Because they lack knowledge, man, the Lord isn't dealing with them, because they don't care to improve themselves. So, and because of that, they have to pay. Verse 13. Whoso feareth the Lord, Sirach 1:13. Whoso feareth the Lord, it shall go well with him at the last, and he shall find favor in the day of his death. Okay? If you lived a life according to the ways of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, the best of your ability. You know, you'll find favor in the time of your passing, man. Verse 14, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. In fact, Jeremiah 1 and 5. I'll start at verse 4. Jeremiah 1 and 4. Then the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, verse 5, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Okay? So, you know, if we're a prophet today, if we were sanctified to be prophets today, we just very well may be those prophets from back then. Lord willing, we were the prophets that were teaching the right thing, the 100% truth. Verse 15. It says, she hath built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed. Their seed, talking about the generation of those men. 16, to fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with her fruits. Filleth men with her fruits, talking about those good deeds, the works. Verse 17, she filleth all their house with things desirable, and their garners with her increase. Okay? Wisdom helps you increase. It helps you prosper in all aspects of life. Excuse me. Now, I've got a precept here. It's Proverbs 14 and 27. Proverbs 14 and 27. It says, the fear of the Lord Yahweh is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. Okay? So, the fear of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is pretty much the only escape from the snares of death. It really is. If you don't have that fear for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, you're in danger of being put to death. Now, going back to Sirach, chapter 1, verse 18, it says, the fear of the Lord is a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish, both which are the gifts of the power, and it enlargeth their rejoicing that love him. 19, when wisdom reigneth down skill and knowledge of understanding, standing, and exalted them to honor that hold her fast. Now another precept would be Proverbs chapter 15, verse 33. The fear of Yahweh is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. Okay? Fear of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai teaches you wisdom, and humility precedes honor. Before honor can come, you must have humility. Now going back to Sirach chapter 1, verse 20, it says, the root of wisdom is to fear the Lord, and the branches thereof are long life. 21, the fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath. In verse 22, a furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his fury shall be his destruction. So, those that fear the Lord, they do not allow their emotions to control them. They have that discipline to control themselves. They're not impulsive. They're patient. They don't allow themselves to act out of character or to get out of pocket and do stupid things or say stupid things. Which does bring me to another precept here. This is Proverbs chapter 14. Proverbs 14 and 16. It says, a wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. So, again, man, a wise man has patience and he thinks things through. While a fool that just rages on, or just acts impulsively, that's a man that's, eventually, he just, that reckless confidence, because one day he's going to end up finding himself in a situation that that could have been avoided if he was just, used his head. So, again, man, be not without fear and wisdom. Fear keeps you alive. Wisdom helps you act and move accordingly. Okay, you need both. Okay? You need them both. That's pretty much all I had for this lesson. Lord willing, it was edifying into the body and to the few sincere believers and listeners. Okay, so again, man, in fact, I'm gonna finish off with this one here. This one you already know. It's gonna be Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians 5:15, and it says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." 16, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. So you got to make the best of this time before, this word, these lessons, these breakdowns, you got to make the best of it. Learn as much as you can before, Yahweh Bashim Shai uses this devil just to turn this shit off, to turn this truth off. And then whatever you know then, that's what you're going to have to stick with, and ultimately you're going to have faith that the Lord guides you in the right direction. In verse 17, "Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is." So, understand what the Lord wants you to do. Okay, don't be unwise. Understand what time you're in. Being mindful of it. This is not the time to be slacking off. This is not the time to be playing games. We're so close to the end of this thing. You really don't have time for the bullshit. And with that, again, I hope that this was an edifying lesson unto the body and to the sincere believers and listeners. And with closing, I'd like to give all the honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raka'at, Kodash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles, the great millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayath Dawadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad. I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abba Babal, Shalom, Barakatam.